afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. Welcome to another edition of this very successful CMO Talk Series that we've been running for a few months now. And I must give a word of thanks to about 400,000 people who have already viewed this series. Today, we have a very special guest with us from a company that really requires no introduction. But we are joined by Sumit Virmani. Sumit is the EVP and Global Chief Marketing Officer for Infosys. Infosys also, as you may be aware, while we all know the business it is in, one way I like thinking about Infosys is if today you were to look for an ESG brand headquartered out of India, like Abu Ben Adhem, Infosys name would be featuring at the head of that list. It's an extraordinary company, something India as a country is very proud of. So Sumit, would you like to say a few words about yourself and introduce yourself to the viewers?
Sure, Krishnan. First of all, congratulations on this program already reaching quite a significant number of people around the world, despite it being relatively young. And thank you so much for having Infosys and me to have an opportunity to participate in this conversation. But clearly, it's been a phenomenal journey that I've had the privilege to experience at Infosys for nearly the 19 years now. And the evolution of the business and the brand has been a great fun. And clearly, I think we're today sitting at a very interesting opportunity for tech brands to go out there and showcase not just the power of India to the world, but truly the power of deep tech and how Indian tech brands are actually shaping global economies in more ways than one. So yes, clearly been a great journey, and look forward to sharing some of that as part of this conversation, and hopefully that'll be valuable to your viewers.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sumit. So Sumit, without further ado, let's jump into the topic we have been exploring with a vast array of CMOs across the world and across industries. And to sort of set it up, this insight came to us at Markets and Markets from the large number of CMOs we work with globally, that something changed post-COVID. And I think post-COVID, one of the things we've observed is historically, CMOs, especially in B2B, had the comfort of saying that, look, here's my brand and here's demand, and I do different things to both. And what we've noticed post-COVID, and especially in the current recessionary environment, is CEOs and boards today are saying, no, these are not two different things. The Venn diagram intersection of these two is really where you have to focus your energies. And when I correlate that to what's happening to the funnel in most companies, we find most companies, by virtue of MarTech and very efficient marketing processes today, backed by technology, are doing a great job through programmatic, through all kinds of digital stuff, through the events they run, virtual or otherwise, and they're filling up the top of the funnel with what we call marketing qualified leads. But then as the funnel narrows and it shifts to the business teams who have to really close revenue, there is a debate whether those MQLs were really leads in the first place. And ultimately, when you see the shape of the funnel, especially in your industry, Sumit, with the funnel itself is becoming more of a bow tie than a funnel. So once you land, then you got to expand and you got to retain, you got to upsell, grow, etc. So you see more of a bow tie shape. And all of that means that while you can efficiently generate leads, effectiveness is a different concept altogether, manifested by conversion, revenue closure, retention rates, renewals, and expansion in client bases. So how, in your book, Sumit, do you first empathize with the difference between these two phenomena? And what's your take on the difference?
Well, Krishnan, first of all, I find this question very intriguing because as a uh, as someone with a finance background, I'm more of a finance graduate by background, marketer by profession, and I've always seen efficiency and effectiveness integral rather than distinct.
Okay.
Because if you were to think about it a little broadly to begin with, we need to first answer the question of what is the role of marketing? Because I think that's where it all starts in our minds and in the context in which we operate. And the way I see it, I usually find Roger Martin's definition possibly the most compelling. When he says marketing is only about two things: way to play and how to win. That's all marketing is about. And if we were to actually for a moment think about it, I think it makes tremendous sense. Marketing as a key function within an organization exists to make the business successful like any other function.
Right.
And if marketing were to understand that the role of marketing is to help organization determine the right markets, and once you've determined the right markets, how to actually win on those markets, I think the conversation between effectiveness and efficiency will become redundant. Because at the end of the day, both can't exist without the other. How can we actually run a highly efficient marketing program if it's not adding to the metrics that the business cares about? At the same time, how can we run a highly effective marketing program if there are more efficient ways of doing the same thing? Because it's like the growth lever and the cost lever. Both are equally important and equally relevant. So to me, for any successful marketer, if they really wish to have a seat at the table, this efficiency and effectiveness debate has to be settled on day one, because there's no existence of marketing without that.
Sumit, you've now placed a existential question bang at the heart of the marketing function. So let me flip this and ask you, where to play and how to win is typically a strategy question. So do you mean to say, therefore, that marketing should position as the key strategy function for the organization first, before getting into more operational or execution-oriented activity?
Well, I think we may now have to go back to our good old Kotler days, right? The happy 4P days. Think about that. The question of 4Ps, is it a strategy question or a marketing question? Because that's what the business is all about. And to me, I know in different organizations, functionally, we operate differently. There are silos in how these things are thought about. But at least I have learned to believe over the decades that I've had an opportunity and the privilege to be a part of for this industry, that successful organizations, the collaboration between some of the key C-suite functions is core. For example, marketing may not be holding the can for strategy, but that does not mean that marketing is not an integral partner and co-owner of the strategic direction of the companies, and they need to be absolutely front and center in helping the business come up with a strategy. And at the same time, depending on where you are as a leader in the evolution of the company, sometimes you step in when the strategic direction has been already articulated and the execution is in play. At that point of time, you need to actually make sure that marketing is playing an integral role in realizing the strategic aspirations of the company. So yes, the way I see it, marketing and strategy are joined at the hip, irrespective of where the responsibility of the function resides.
Beautiful. In fact, I think there's another old saying, right? Marketing is too important to be left to the marketing department. And you have paraphrased it to say strategy is too important to be left to a strategy department, and you have other players. But let me ask you a key question there, Sumit. So, where to play and how to win can be driven either in an existing addressable market or in an expanded TAM. Where do you see the greatest value? Is it existing TAM, expanded TAM?
Once again, Krishnan, I think you also come from an IT services industry yourself.
Yeah.
I think it's the nature of the beast that we need to understand as marketeers. If we happen to be in an organization where 70, 80, 90% of your business is concentrated amongst an existing set of clients, then that becomes your superset to ensure you deepen and widen that superset with your focused and targeted marketing efforts. Having said that, even if there's a 10% of your business that's dependent on new clients or new potential customers, that 10% is critical as well, because that 10% is a feed that will become that will add to the existing business over the next 5, 7, 10 years, and therefore you can't lose sight of it. At the same time, the ratio of focus may have to be a good 80-20, as we've it is a good 80-20 rule, because to me, it's the context in which you operate. It may not be a one-size-fits-all approach from a focus perspective.
Got it. So you're dividing it into two boxes right now, Sumit. And actually, the numbers speak for themselves, right? So typically, in your P&L annually, you would declare upwards of 90% of revenue from existing accounts, and best case is 10% from net new. And therefore, net new accounts, you are correlating to an expanded TAM, and existing accounts, you are correlating to an existing TAM, though that may not be the case, because the biggest growth in existing accounts can be from playing in markets that they are getting into as part of their next strategy.
In fact, I would like to add. I would not make it as simplistic. I would say one can feel free to define the segments as you deem fit. But one thing I've realized, at least in this industry, is that sometimes it might be myopic to look at existing business as a segment. You may need to look at existing accounts as a segment, not an existing business as a segment, because suddenly you realize you're working for multi-billion-dollar organizations and you've possibly only scratched the surface, because you're only focused on working for one business or one buying center. And that potential within an account itself could be considered as expanded potential or new potential, depending on how you define it. But at the end of the day, it's all about expanding the pie and driving growth and supporting growth of the organization, irrespective of how you choose to define the segments.
So let's ask that question, Sumit. So now, I'm very keen to walk that path on that existing account narrative, because numbers are there. And obviously, every quarter, you guys are demonstrating larger and larger deals in your existing account base. However, Sumit, you've already got, for your large accounts, a client partner organization, a dedicated pre-sales team. You've got quota-carrying sellers on the ground. You would have a global account management structure, all of that. How does marketing participate then in exploring and growing that account with so many stakeholders already aligned by the organization?
I think that there are two ways to think about it, Krishnan. One is, what do you see as the role of marketing? Right. Do you see as the role of marketing as an independent funnel generator, or do you look at the role of marketing as a collaborator towards an objective?
Super.
Now, if you look at let's take an example of an existing account dimension that you talked about from a structure that you articulated. These are multi-billion-dollar organizations, and we've all learned about a very simple marketing truth of push versus pull, right? There is a dimension where for success has to if success has to be enabled, you have to find the right balance of push and pull marketing as part of your strategy. Now, when it comes to push marketing, that is where you need to look at possibly an account as a market of one. Uh, think of realizing concepts like account based marketing, where you're actually partnering very, very closely with the client partner, with the sales team, with the delivery teams, making them look good, making them successful, helping them strengthen their relationships, helping them widen their relationships through marketing programs. So that's a way where marketing plays a role of a collaborator, and marketing enables the push in the most effective way possible. Then again, there is a big role of marketing on the pull side, which is creating the right air cover, creating the right perception, not just in the buying centers that are already dealing with you, but also in the buying centers that possibly are not dealing with you, who do not have exposure for what you are doing within the same organization itself. And that's where the role of air cover marketing above the line becomes super critical. So I think if marketing truly has to deliver value, it has to keep a balance between push and pull, play the role of the collaborator, which is helping accelerate that push, at the same time play the role of a magnet that is actually using the pull strategy to feed the funnel.
That's superbly defined, Sumit. And let's now go down the magnet path. Right. So I will keep narrowing you. So tell me, so two questions I had on the magnet construct, right? Going back to your where to play and how to win. So obviously, if as a magnet, what you're doing is pulling the rest of the organization into new buying centers. In effect, the first thing you're doing is that larger organization you have around the account, you are giving them a vision of the future, which doesn't exist now. Otherwise, they're already serving existing buying centers. The move to a new buying center means that there is a delta which needs to be acted on, which is being delivered as part of the pull from marketing. What gives marketing, and I'll come to my second question later because this itself is a complex one. What gives marketing the credibility to predict the future, to define the pull for the rest of the organization?
Okay. So I think first of all, we need to understand the push-pull construct a little more deeply. I think when I'm looking at a push construct, it's about the fundamental assumptions there are that the front end sales teams, client partner teams, delivery teams have a better understanding of the account than possibly marketing does. And marketing comes in, plays as a collaborator, works with them to advance their agenda while bringing in ideas, because you have an experience of doing this for 50 accounts, and you actually bring those ideas and say, okay, XYZ worked here, how can we replicate it in your account? So the broad experience and multiple perspectives give marketers the credibility to push the larger account agenda. But then again, remember, the agenda belongs to the account. The pull dimension is a dimension where you are actually creating an air cover for the account, where new buying centers are getting pulled by the magnet or the power of that magnet. And that's where it's again delightful for the account leads, because they are getting incoming traffic from buying centers who they've either not been in touch with or whose problems they haven't fully articulated or defined. So in some sense, it ends up becoming a win-win. The credibility of marketing, one comes from the experience of working across accounts, and second comes from delivering this new buying centers traffic, which traditionally wasn't visible or available to the stakeholders who are front-ending it.
Absolutely, got that. So the credibility comes from, let's say, the great work done collaboratively on the push agenda. My question still remains, Sumit, on the pull agenda, as going back to the where to play question. To be able to build the right air cover, you need to be able to figure out where the play is for the new buying center, right? It's not a generic air cover. So I'll give you an example. You may have a large energy client, and your energy client is spending billions of dollars on sustainability initiatives, generating a new buying center. For instance, today, digital twin is, let's say, the most prevalent investment. Now, your colleagues may not have encountered that function or that buying center yet. So how would you go about, how does marketing go about identifying, segmenting, and saying, this is where to play in order to build my air cover?
No, I think it's a great question. And I think that possibly brings me to the other function of marketing. Now, marketing is the ambassador of the organization. That's one role of marketing. But marketing is also the watchdog that is looking at what's happening out there in the marketplace. The reason why marketers interact or engage with influencers out there, with look at scanning competition, the whole dimension of market intelligence, all that plays a critical role in informing marketing about what's happening in the marketplace. Because sometimes the sales or the client partner would be busy fully engaging with doing their primary job. It's the job of marketing to out there to say, okay, hey, we were in the market, this is what we see competition doing. This is what I'm seeing industry moving towards. This is what I'm seeing is a new demand being laid out in the client conversations I am having. So I would say all of that has to be assembled and brought back into the organizations to articulate where the next opportunity is. It could be an opportunity around the buying center, like you just talked about with the chief sustainability officer, a completely new buying center emerging across businesses who want to advance their sustainability agenda and are looking for solution providers. Similarly, look at you and I, marketeers like us. We possibly have been flooded with tech over the last decade or so, and some of us have possibly taken massive strides in technology. But research after research has shown that marketeers are possibly spending tons on tech. That wasn't the case. Is that the buying center that we should be looking at? Look at chief HR officers. Employee experience has completely been redefined during the entire COVID times, right? You just suddenly had a completely new challenge, engaging with remote employees, figuring out how to provide training remotely. Again, a massive buying center, chief security officers. I mean, we can go on and on and on. But the fact is that today, very definite, very specific buying centers are emerging, which you got to keep an eye on depending on what's happening. And that is something you will, as a marketer, figure out if you have not forgotten your role of the watchdog in addition to your role as an ambassador.
That's fabulous, Sumit. In fact, you're now lifting that word called ABM. You've taken it to a different sphere altogether. So what you just described, Sumit, has three different value streams to me, and maybe you would define it better. The first, obviously, is the intelligence value stream, where you're able to go out there, pick unstructured data, shape it into consumable intelligence. The second is the strategy value stream, where you convert that intelligence into actionable insight, including which are the buying centers to go after, where to build the air cover. And the third work stream is the activation stream, where you actually go to market and do stuff to build the air cover. So broadly, I'm seeing these three things in my head. My question to you is, organizationally, how do you structure to do these three things well? And for each of these streams, how would you measure success?
Okay, I think the structure of an individual marketing organization will obviously flow from the larger goals you've laid out for yourself. And that again are informed by the larger strategic choices the business is made for itself. Having said that, the way we look at structuring is slightly differently. And we actually just look at two big pillars of the way we think about structuring a marketing organization. And that brings me to possibly another point that if we have time to, we can actually debate, which is the balancing the short term with the long term. Because marketing possibly sits in a unique position where you have the immediate challenges to support the business and accelerating growth, more so in an environment that we are currently talking in, where here and now growth is going to be a big opportunity for, or a challenge and an opportunity for businesses, and marketing can play a great role in realizing that. And that requires a strong GTM organization that you nurture from a perspective of working closely with the business and ensuring that the funnel is being actively built and converted. So that's the GTM part of the marketing organization. The second part of the marketing organization, I would say, is in very simplistic terms, the brand part of the marketing organization, which is about protecting the future, which is about ensuring that you don't lose sight of the relevance of marketing and brand beyond the next 3 or 4 quarters. And that's where you are informed by the core purpose of the organization. You're informed by what do I wish to stand for in the minds of my employees and in the minds of my clients, and basically a set of stakeholders. And how can you ensure that downturn or no downturn, that agenda keeps getting propelled, so that, because data and research, recession after recession has shown that brands that invest during the downturn come out as winners and gain market share in the long run. So to me, we look at the org structure primarily across these two pillars with a different set of metrics and a different set of objectives that define success.
Yeah, so you've got the balance between the long and the short there, Sumit. I remain interested in that concept of the account, because you were treating the account as a marketplace. So there is where to play, how to win questions to be addressed within the 4 walls of the account, as it were. So, given the fact that you have the brand structure and the GTM structure, which are, say, larger superstructures, how do you build a functional way of getting into the account? So have you cracked that model?
We would like to believe that. But I think as we all know, it's always a work in progress. The way we have thought about the account structure, it's actually baked into the GTM structure. As a business, we go to market as verticals, as huge industry verticals. And within the vertical marketing organization, we have actually created the account organization, because see, one thing is pretty evident in this business, or possibly in any business for that matter. Focus requires dedicated effort. The moment you dilute that effort, you are going to struggle with the results and the focus that you intend delivering on. So from an ABM perspective, we look at dedicated marketing leadership within the vertical structure, whose job is to look at the account as a market of one, but at the same time, be the glue that will bring the rest of the marketing together to deliver towards that account. So the rest of the channels, rest of the creative power, the content power, all comes together to deliver on the account. But that person becomes, in some sense, the expert on what that account marketing strategy is about and how it will be executed.
Fabulous. Sumit, I think the concept of account as a market of one and a marketer quarterbacking that account with all of the global power of the marketing organization is a very compelling idea and great learning. So, Sumit, before we close, your session today will be watched by many CMOs and aspiring CMOs. When they go back to office tomorrow, what are a couple of things you would recommend they do differently, having heard the way you are tackling business and marketing?
Well, some of it might sound like the repeat of some of the points we discussed. But if I were to actually summarize this for a marketer thinking of a credible seat at the table, I would say don't confuse between efficiency and effectiveness. One doesn't exist without the other. Second, do not lose the opportunity of balancing the short term with the long term, because you will actually not be delivering to your mandate if you get carried away with the short term pressures. That's a fight you got to fight, and hopefully some of it you will win. And finally, I would say keep a very, very hawk-eyed view on tech and talent, because that is fundamentally disrupting our industry. What was happening a decade ago and the skills you learned a decade ago are almost irrelevant if you haven't kept your organization and your tech infrastructure in sync with the time. So yes, as long as you focus on these three, my guess is you'll be in a good shape.
Sumit, thank you so much. You have given us the concept of balance as marketers and CMOs and really demystified the way an account should be thought about rather than, let's say, very tactical ABM approaches. Wonderful having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Krishnan. Indeed, a pleasure of being a part of the show, and keep rocking.